Let me just quickly tell you a little bit about myself. Let me make sure whoops, I jumped ahead too. What About Bob? That was a great movie with Bill Murray, if you saw that years ago. I believe that people who are blessed and lucky enough to find their calling, or some people call it a right livelihood, in life, can actually trace it back to things that they did in their youth. And I'm one of those people. I was able to combine two of my passions. I can trace back to like third to like fifth grade. Music was an early passion of mine, and it took me a while to finally learn the guitar and start playing in high school. I've been playing in rock bands, guitar player, singer, songwriter, still do that part-time and will as long as I'm able to breathe, I think. But I can also trace back an interest in writing. Back to the third grade, I write these little those big blue line paper that you learn to write on in grade school. I would write these little science fiction stories and share them with classmates and get in trouble in school because people were reading my little stories. I stopped writing about the monsters in the science fiction, but still, it was the writing thing. It's amazing looking back that I combined these two early passions and I'm now making a living as an author. But over the years, I've done a lot of things. Played in rock bands. In my 20s, I combined my interest in music and writing, with no previous experience whatsoever, a whole list of reasons not to. I started publishing a local music newspaper in my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. In fact, I just ran into John Nordman here, who his family ran a printing company, and they printed some of the early versions of this. And so if you remember that, John, you can probably agree with me that they were not pretty. I was always believing in taking action. I was excited about doing something. I just kind of jumped into it, and let's try it. Like, if you don't ever seen those like old Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland movies where he goes, "Hey, my uncle has a barn. Let's put on a show." I was kind of like that guy. Let's do it, When I had no good reason to. So anyway, I published a local music newspaper for 10 years. During that period, I also dabbled in a lot of other creative things. I've done theater. I've done stand-up comedy even for 15 years. In my 20s and 30s, I did stand-up comedy on it. And that was one of the most challenging things that you never do on stage. I formed improvisational comedy troupes. And then, but I was kind of, it was frustrating because I was, that book called Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow? And for many years I felt, man, I'm doing what I love. I'm doing it all the time, but where's the money? I kept looking behind me and I wouldn't even see it in the background. So it wasn't until I sort of got more focused on my energies and I realized that I was interested in publishing, but not the monthly deadlines of the newspaper. And I had my first book published in about 1992, a small company in San Francisco, in San Diego, it doesn't matter. But they put out a book of mine called 101 Ways to Make Money in the Music Business. That was the first time I was a published author. I've often joked I should have followed that up with a book called 1,001 Ways to Lose Money in the Music Business, but that wouldn't have been so popular. So anyway, I was bitten by this author bug, and I really saw that as my calling, and ever since then I've been using the internet to get the word out about my music marketing tips, and if I could have a couple. So I'm the author of several books, most of them self-published. So there's definitely this self-empowerment message that runs throughout what I'm going to talk to you about. And I've self-published. I practice what I preach. And here's one of my best-selling titles is the Guerrilla Music Marketing Handbook. One of its big claim to fame is it appeared for all of 5 or 6 seconds in the movie The School of Rock, starring Jack Black. I didn't, but my book did. And I had no idea it was going to be in the movie until the opening weekend. I went and saw it. I had sent in a copy with a release form like a year prior. Had no idea if it'd make it in. Just watching every scene, you look in the background, and there's a student carrying it, and I'm like, "Well, that's it!" I shouted out in the crowd. I suppose it's better than yelling out fire. But anyway, that's sort of my story. So I make a living as an author on marketing, and for some reason, over all these years doing all these creative things, I was a very curious person. I wondered, why is it that some bands and some performers and some artists create this buzz and get a lot of notoriety? Why is it that others, unfortunately the majority, seem to struggle and have to work for it? What was it about the people that got attention? What set them apart? What were they doing differently? So I started writing about this stuff, and I continue to this day. I blog, I do podcasts, video clips, all sorts of stuff. So I've got a lot of insights I like to share with you on the creative path.